A very good evening, everyone. My name is Mehreen Shamim, and I'm the Curriculum Manager at 1M1B. I welcome you all to yet another interesting session on data literacy, data collection to data analysis, part 2. So before we start the session, we would like to extend our gratitude to IBM for partnering with us. The Grade 11 AI curriculum has been revised with the support of IBM and facilitated by 1M1B Foundation as IBM's partner. This initiative is part of our ongoing commitment to building and strengthening the AI teacher community in India, and these training sessions are a crucial component of this mission. Now, it's my honor to introduce our resource person for today's session, Ms. Annie Kumar. With over 19 years of teaching experience, Annie ma'am is the head of the Computer Science Department at Vikas Bharati Public School, Delhi, and a recipient of the 2019 National ICT Award. A UNESCO MGEIP Master Trainer, she is also certified in Microsoft AI Fundamentals and has been a Microsoft Master Trainer since 2016. Annie ma'am has authored 4 computer science textbooks series and is renowned for her contributions to ICT-based curriculum innovation. She is also one of the members in the AI advisory for curating the grade 11 and 12 curriculum. In 2023, she mentored in the Open Education for Better World program and presented her open educational resources at the Global CC Summit and EduScope. Her dedication to advancing technology in education is truly inspiring. So please join me in warmly welcoming Miss Annie Kumar. So over to you, ma'am.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Mehreen. It was a wonderful introduction, and I would like to thank everyone who has joined, taken out time on this is actually a holiday today, so it is a great that so many people have joined, and I am also thankful to everyone because I hope I would like to satisfy their aspirations for which they had joined. Okay, let me 1 second. Let me share my screen. I hope my screen is shared.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Before starting, I would like to know that I hope this is the second session of towards data literacy, data collection, and data analysis. The first series was already conducted, and this is the second one. So I would like to check with everyone, what do you understand by data, first of all? I hope everyone is actually aware of what is data. So you can use the chat window and give your answers. Yes, everyone is responding. So raw facts and figures, yes, amazing. This is facts and figures. Yes, we have lots of data, but do you feel the data itself is going to give us some story? Whenever you see the numbers, there is actually some story. And when you feel like when you see the numbers on, suppose sales market index, so there we have lots of numbers and each number tells us something. So like we need, why there is a requirement of data analysis, because every number is actually telling us some story, and it's our skill, the way we are going to use the skill to solve that problem or to understand what is it actually that data is telling us. So for that, we need to represent the data very beautifully. So if anyone can help me out, that what is data representation? Yes. So what is data representation? Yes, representation of facts and figures, instruction about some entity, exploring data, showing data in effective manner. Yes, yes. So if suppose you have written something and you have kept in a manner that you are not able to search it out, so that is there is no point in storing that sort of data. For that's why it is very important that whenever we are using the data, whenever we are storing the data, it should be kept in such a manner that further in our life, whenever we require it, we can very well use it. So data in computers. Now we are actually talking about AI and computers. So data is actually, we are talking about the representation of data on the computer. So basically, whenever we talk about computer, so data representation on the computer is uh, in the form of 0 and 1, that is binary. Yes, I hope everyone agrees with me that whenever we are storing the data, it should be in the form of 0 and 1. And the data, whatever we are talking about, is it the same data everywhere? Is it only numbers, or we have different types of data? Yes, teachers? Do we have different types of data, or it is the only one type of data that we are representing? Yes, we have images, we have videos, we have text, we have numbers. So it is not only the one thing that we talk about in data. So all these data should be represented in the form of zeros and ones. And that too, when we are representing the data, this data is like what all basically the data you have already discussed. We have numbers. When we are representing the numbers, now numbers can be represented in the form of binary, decimal, octal. And when we talk about the characters are can be represented in the form of ASCII, Unicode, and images. When we talk about the images, now images can also be stored in the form of pixels, and in the binary we can represent the whole entire data in the form of 0 and 1. And the data is actually, the images are, we have different formats for each of the data to be stored, that is JPG, PNG, BMP. These all are the different types of images. And the sound files, we have WAV files, MP3 files, and these all could be also stored in the form of your 0 and 1s, and even the videos and the booleans. So these are the different types of data that we encountered in our day-to-day life. And now it is our skill how we are going to represent it. So there are two representation techniques. One is for the non-graphical, and the second one is the graphical technique. When we talk about the non-graphical, that means we are talking about the big data set. And if you're going to represent your data in the big data set, but basically what happens when we are analyzing? Okay, so few people like the non-graphical mode, that is the numbers, and few people like the graphical mode. Like if I say, if you want to check what is the pass percentage of the students in your class 8, 9, 10 or something like that. So there are two ways of representing it. We can either give it in the form of Excel, or we can make a very beautiful chart for that and represent it. So it is our skill how we are going to represent the data. So we have basically non-graphical mode as well as the graphical mode. And the graphical mode is more enhanced. We have different types of tools also in our day-to-day life, like you have Excel, you have Power BI, that gives you a story of the visualization. When we visualize means you are going to, after seeing the graphics, you can understand that what is the data actually giving you the story, what is the storyline behind the data. So almost everyone, the layman's who are not so prone into the numerical thing, they understand the visualization of the data. We are basically, whenever we talk about the data, it is the statistical analysis. So first of all, in this chapter, we would be understanding what is actually statistical analysis. You can use the chat window and please respond what do you understand by the statistical analysis. Yes, teachers? What is statistical analysis? Statistics is itself a very big subject and an enhanced one. So Yes, mean, median, mode. Yes, mean, median, mode. These are the very beautiful terms, mean, median, mode. And if you are representing the data in the form of numbers, yes, then we generally use the statistical mode. Yes, great, great, everyone. So you actually have understood what is statistical analysis. So mean, median, mode, standard deviation, these are the few terms that we use in our statistical analysis. So mean, if I refer to mean, if anyone can tell me what do you understand by mean? Yes, mean is for a layman is like an average. Average is what? You are going to find the sum of everything and divide it by the number of elements. That is the average. So that is called mean. And median means what? Sum of total middle value. Yes. Median is the middle value. That means we are going to arrange all the entire data in increasing or decreasing order and take the center one. So that is your median. And mode is what? Yes, the most repeating one. Great. So almost I think everyone has come prepared for these type of quizzes. So very interactive session, very interactive. You people are doing wonders. So everyone has already checked these all things. So mode is the element that has got a maximum count. So it has got lots of importance in the statistical analysis. So the items, so the values, like for example, you can see that whenever a company is producing some products, so few of the sizes they produce more and few of the sizes they produce less. Why? Like it is actually on the basis of statistical analysis they have understood that which particular size occurrence is more. So that's why they are producing that particular size is more. So this is like statistical data actually helps us in our day-to-day life also. So statistics is the science of data, which is in fact a collection of mathematical techniques that helps to extract information from data. And with the AI perspective, statistics, it helps us to transform the observation into, see, what is the AI thing with anything? Like if by seeing the previous data, if we are going to train some model with the previous data, and your model is going to give the answers, or your model is going to predict for the future. That is the AI perspective. So for saying in the future, like for example, we can say as student that you have not done, you are studying only 1 hour, so you will get this much of marks. So our observation, we ourselves are also AI enabled. So by seeing our like how much the study hours of the students, how much he is paying attention into the class, his or her attendance in the class, by seeing that also we are able to tell that okay, you are going to pass, or you will be, you can be in a compartment. So these all things we are able to analyze. So the same thing is this here also. By training the model with the previous data or the old data, by the data set, if we are able to predict for the future. So that is actually the AI perspective of the statistical analysis. So before moving forward, I would like, if all of you are on the computer, we can, because this today's training is basically on the how we are going to use Python for doing statistical analysis and the visualization. So it would be great if everyone can use your computer, and we would be using the this one. I would be using the Colab for it. And on the Colab, because I am not going to import the libraries for doing a statistical analysis, we need to import the libraries. We can even use Ideally or Jupyter Notebook, but right now I would be using the Colab. And Colab, for opening Colab, what you need to do, I'm 1 minute. Let me stop share. 1 second. 1 second. Let me open the file. Hmm. Can you let me know that if my screen is shared, are you able to see the Colab window?
Yes, ma'am, we can see.
Okay, great, great. So we are right now going to do the Python programs, and I am going to use the Colab. Yeah, I hope everyone is knows how to open the Colab. You need to sign in into your Gmail ID, and then you need to use Colab. Okay, Colab is actually a software enabled by Gmail, by Google, that already has where you can write it. It looks like Jupyter Notebook, and you can write down your Python programs over there very easily. Okay, so what do you need to do? We need to go to File, click on New Notebook. Okay, and I keep all my this notebooks inside a folder. So, and also I rename my files, so that could be done very easily by clicking over here. What you can do, you can rename your files, like for example, statistics in Python, so, or statistical analysis, whatever you wish. So like this, you can rename your file, and this all will be saved into your Google Drive, into your Gmail ID. And here you have two things. Here you can write the program. This triangle symbol means we can execute the program, and you have basically code and the text. Very easy window, very not too many things are there, so you need not memorize and upload the library, nothing. No, that sort of problem is there. You can very easily click on text to write this. So what I do, I use this text to write down these things, so that I get the question as well as the answer. You can see in my Colab I have the headings, the questions, and the answer. So program I have written here, and the question is here. So the first program that what we are going to do, there are 25 students in a class, and their height we have taken, and I want to find the mean, that is the average of the height of the entire class. So for doing any statistics program, we need to import the library that is called statistics. So I've written import statistics, and height is equal to, I have written all the height of all the students in my class inside a square bracket. Now you can see the square bracket means that it is a list. So I have kept all the heights of my students inside a list, and then print is actually used to print the output. So what I have done, this is the output, and here I have used the function statistics dot mean square bracket heights. So what it will do, heights is the argument. It will use this mean is an inbuilt function. So what is happening, this mean will evaluate, and it will find the sum of all the heights that I have given divided by the total number of students. Now here the total number of students is 25. So but naturally it is going to divide all the heights by 25 and give the result. So here this is the triangle. You need to click over there and you can get the output. Okay. So I hope this is clear to everyone. Yes, if anyone is having any sort of any problem, you can let me know. I can do it again. So yes, I'm getting yes from everyone. So thank you. Okay. So this was the way of creating. Actually, one more thing. Here you can see here what I've done. I've written import statistics. If I write if import statistics like as S. Okay. So instead of writing the statistics again and again, since statistics is very big word, so what I can do, I can write it like this also. So still I will get the answer. You can check how it is, like import statistics as S if I have written. Now I have written S dot mean sound bracket height. So again, instead of writing that statistics, the program has become little smaller, and it was easy to use it. So children, what they do many times, they do mistake in the spellings, and they after some hours, after getting errors, they get fed up that ma'am, we are getting errors. So better to write small convert the statistics to S. Okay. So let us move to the next program. In the next program, what we are going to do, we are finding the median. So median is what? Median is actually now you can see that the data that I have taken is not arranged in ascending or descending order. But if you already know the theory of median, Median means you need to first of all arrange all the entire data in ascending order or descending order, and then you need to see the center. Means if it is odd, the center point you will get directly, and if it is even number of elements or even number of elements, then what we do, n and n by 2 and n by 2 plus 1th element we take, and then we find the average of both the values, and then we can get the median. So this is the formula of calculating the median. So what we are doing here, we are least bothered how it is actually going to calculate. We have simply given all the entire data set in whatever manner you wish. You can give it everything, that is ascending, arranging the data, finding the center value, everything is done by the software, by the inbuilt function itself. Okay, so this is easy and even very easy to analyze. So median we can get. Okay, so this way you can calculate. Let's see the next one. Now mode also what we do, you can for calculating the mode, you can arrange all the elements in ascending or descending order, and then see the occurrence, whichever element is actually occurring the most, that you have to see. So here also, see, when the number of data elements is less, that time we don't face any type of problem. But if this number of data becomes comes to thousands and more than 1,000, then that time we actually face problem, where that is we cannot calculate the mean, median, mode manually. So right now that it is looking like we are able to calculate it and we are able to analyze it also. But doing by computer, it helps us to save our time, and we are able to get the things very faster. We don't need to calculate it manually. So that's why mode is actually very easy. When you have lots of data, it just seeing the element which is having maximum number, maximum times of occurrence, we need to display that value. Okay, so I hope this is clear to everyone. Okay, 1 minute, let me. So now we have to understand. So mean, median, mode is very simple. You can very easily calculate the mean, median, mode, but there is two more terminologies in statistical analysis. That is, this mean, median, mode is called a central tendency. The central tendency means the center value of the data set. Okay, mean, median, mode is the central tendency, and the next type of this analysis is the standard deviation and the variance. So standard deviation and variance is a little different than the central tendency. Central tendency, we calculate three things: mean, median, and mode. So you already have understood that what are the different central tendency, how it is calculated. Measures of central tendency can be calculated with the help of mean, median, and mode, and this is it gives us the central data set. Okay, so mean, median, mode is the central tendency, and it provides the central value of the data set. I hope this is clear to everyone. Okay, so now next what we are having standard deviation. So before understanding standard deviation, let us watch this video. Let me see whether the audio in the video, I hope this, I need to share it again. Okay, just let me know if the audio is, if it is not audible then.
A small standard deviation indicates that data points cluster closely around the mean, while a large standard deviation reveals greater
It is audible, no?
Yes.
Okay.
dispersion among them. This concept is essential for effective data analysis. Standard deviation is commonly represented by the Greek letter sigma, which signifies variation within a dataset. Its applications span various fields, including finance, science, and healthcare. It is crucial to grasp the distinction between population and sample when calculating standard deviation. A sample represents a smaller subset drawn from a larger population. Sample studies often involve selecting individuals from diverse backgrounds to accurately reflect the larger population. This method is essential when comprehensive testing of the entire population is impractical. The formula for calculating standard deviation varies between sample and population. Using n-1 in the sample formula corrects for potential bias in estimation. Standard deviation is pivotal in understanding normal distribution and the variability present in data. The empirical rule clarifies how data distributes itself around the mean. According to the empirical rule, approximately 68.2% of data falls within one standard deviation of the mean, underscoring the significance of comprehending data spread. Calculating standard deviation involves finding the average and assessing how each individual value deviates from this mean, highlighting the diversity inherent in the dataset. By utilizing the standard deviation formula, one can quantify the spread of data, yielding insights into the variability among data points. Understanding standard deviation helps identify whether data points are closely clustered or widely dispersed around the mean, a vital aspect of data analysis. In cases where all data points in a set are identical, the standard deviation equals 0, signifying no variation. This fact underscores the importance of variability in datasets. A zero standard deviation indicates that all data points are identical, which can significantly influence the interpretation of results in statistical analysis.
Okay, so I hope you all have understood what is the basic difference between standard deviation and this one, central tendency. In central tendency, what happens? We talk about the center value, okay? But in standard deviation, we talk about the range of values. Okay. So basically, when we talk about, there are two terms. One is standard deviation and the other one is variance. So what is the basic difference between standard and standard deviation and the variance? Standard deviation is the square root of the variance, and standard deviation is a standard deviation is a better thing for calculating the statistical analysis. So what happens in standard deviation? We measure the average of the square root. Now you can see that here each data point xi is the each data point and the mean. We first of all calculate the mean and subtract each of the data point with the mean, and then find the square and find a summation. Summation means all the values will be summed together and then divided by the total number of data sets. This is actually your variance. Now, variance actually spreads across the entire data set. So, variance is not giving you the exact value. So, whatever is the value, it is not giving the exact value. But the standard deviation is the square root of this variance. So you can see here, this standard deviation is what you just need to do a square root of the variance and you get the standard deviation. So basically what happens whenever we talk about the standard deviation, it is easier to interpret by seeing the standard deviation. So from the central value, how much it is deviating, this is basically your standard deviation. And standard deviation is the exact replica of the values, whatever you have taken in the data sets. So that's why it is better for giving us the value for checking the status, for doing the analysis. So if you can see here how to calculate the standard deviation. So yes, so you can see here we have a data set, like for example, this is a data set. Mean where we represent bar by the x raised to the bar. This bar is actually representing the mean. So we are finding the mean is actually the average. So you are finding the sum of all the values divided by total number of elements, and that gives us the mean. Now for finding the variance, what we do, each of the element is subtracted, this mean is subtracted from that and the square root. So now what you are getting 8. So it is not helping us to do analysis better. Now standard deviation is square root of that. So it is somewhat the elements that data set, the data that we have taken. Okay, so I hope this is clear to everyone. So variance and standard deviation, these two are the other statistical analysis methods, and this gives us this talks about the range of the values, means from the central value how much the data set is actually, the data is actually deviating. This is being given by the standard deviation. Okay, so I hope this is clear to everyone. Okay, so now let us talk about the data visualization. So what is data visualization? Yes, what is data visualization? Um, yes, yes, exactly. Yes, Tushar sir is exactly correct. So he has given the exact definition of variance and standard deviation and pictorial representation of data. Yes. So few people understand the graphical, few people understand the numbers. So both are important. It is not like that we can only do analysis on the basis of graphs only. It is like we need both the things because it depends on the user perspective also what they like. They either they are able to understand the images or they are able to understand the, so we like two things. Either we go for the images or either we go for the numbers. So these are the two perspective of the data. So it is like for analysis, it is not like that everyone is going to understand the data visualization thing. Few people are very good into seeing the numbers and they understand the story behind it. That also I told, because this all is about predicting for the future. That's why we are studying these things. Okay. So yes. So data visualization is what? It is graphical or pictorial representation of data using graph, chart, and this is called as data visualization. You can see different types of graphs we can use for representing the data. So now what we are going to do, we are going to use Python for doing the for data visualization. So let me open my Colab once again, 1 minute. So I hope my screen is shared. You are able to see. So now you can see here, we are talking about drawings. Now, till here, we were talking only about the numbers, but now we are talking about the drawing. So what we are doing, let us do, there are different types of data visualization tools are there. Like you can create charts. Charts are of line chart, bar chart, histogram, scatter plot, pie chart. So I am going to discuss all the different types of charts. So we are not left with too much of time, but still I will try to show you all the programs of all the different types of chart. So line chart is the simplest one. We in our junior classes also we have been in a manner we used to draw the chart, draw the linear equations graphs. So it is something that sort of. So this is a line chart where I'm going to take the test. Now there are, suppose a child is giving test for 5 tests are being conducted throughout the year, and these are the marks secured by the child in each of the tests. So I want to do an analysis of this test marks. So what I have done, I have made two. Yes, for doing data visualization, there are different types of libraries, but right now we are going to use matplotlib.pyplot as pyplot for drawing this graph. Why I have used PLT? Because otherwise I need to use this whole big name for writing the or calling the functions. Okay, so that's why to make it shorter I have used PLT. Okay, so test is again a list where I have written the names of the test, and now marks are, these are the marks scored by the student in all the 5 tests. So plt.title will give the title to the graph. Okay, plt.xlabel will give write here whatever in the x-axis, whatever you wish to write, you can see here. plt.ylabel will give the whatever you want to write in the y-axis, that could be displayed here. And plt.plot is actually used for drawing a line chart. Okay, so you can see here text comma marks. Now text is on the x-axis, marks will be on the y-axis, and accordingly the chart will be drawn. Now here G is for the color of the graph. You can see here I'm getting a beautiful green color for the graph. Why? Because I have used here G. You can use R if you wish to change it to R. By default it is blue. So if you don't give the color, it will you will get a graph of blue color. Okay, so marker is D. Now D is for diamond. You can see here the diamonds. Okay, so that's why these are called the markers. Okay, marker size, this is the size of the marker. If I make it small, then the size will become less. Okay, let us run it. So you can see here the size changes. Marker edge color is blue. You can see here outline of this marker is blue. Line style is solid. That's why I'm getting a solid line. You can have a dot dot, dash dot, whatever you wish. And plt dot show is used for displaying the graph. Okay, I hope this program is clear to everyone. Okay. So let us see the next program. This was a program where I had drawn a line chart. So the next program is for drawing a bar chart. This is called a bar chart. So can anyone tell me what is the basic difference between a bar chart and a histogram? Both of them have bins in it. Bins means the vertical bars. Yes? Anyone? What is the basic difference between a bar chart and a histogram? Horizontal and vertical. Yes, there is no gap. Bars are according to the data, and histogram take the frequency. Yes. Histograms are continuous. Yes. Yes. So whenever we have, yes, when we have discrete values, like for example, I have a data set where I talk about like the number of different types of cars in India. Like if I say the different types of cars, suppose the different models of the car. So that will be represented using histogram or bar chart. Can anyone let me know? Yes, bar chart focus on a category. Yes. Suppose I want to know the number of animals in a zoo, like how many deer is there, how many lion is there, how many rabbits are there, like how many birds are there. So that for drawing this type of graph, I will be using histogram or bar chart. Yes, bar chart. Mangla is saying bar chart. Yes, correct. So these, wherever you have the labels and according to that labels, you have the values, we generally go for the bar chart. But histogram is like wherever you have a range of values. Okay. So whenever we have range of values, then we use a histogram. Okay. So this is a something very because children, they need to analyze that what type of data they are getting and what they are going to use for how they can visualize that data. So here I am having the marks secured by the same student in different subjects. Okay, English, Hindi, math, science, social science, and I have written the marks secured by that child in all these subjects. Now I can draw this one. Pie chart also can help me to draw this, and but histogram is not going to help me for drawing, for visualizing such type of data. I need to use a bar chart. Okay. So one more thing I have done in this program, you can see here, the title I've used color. Now color of the title has changed. Font size is also bigger because here also you can use your formatting technique for doing it. X label, Y label is already clear. And test comma marks. Now test is going to come here and the marks is going to come here. And the color is a red. Now if you want to have any other color like yellow color, that could also be there. These are, so this is the colors, and even you can have different colors for each of the bar. That could also be done. What I can do, I can use C is equal to, I can make a list. Suppose this is red, comma, green. Actually, okay, it has taken, AI has already taken. Color is equal to, I will give C. So now you can see my bar chart is having beautiful different types of colors. And if you give one color, that is also okay. And you can see here, the labels here are little tilted. This is all happening with this X sticks. And rotation I have given 45. Why this is important? Many times we have got lots of data. And if I don't give these rotations, leave it. Suppose I don't want this line to get executed. I have made it a comment. You can see here, it is like this. You can see if the names are bigger, if we have more names here, then it becomes very difficult in the horizontal manner. That's why what we do, if the right now I'm having only 5 this bars, but the number of bars if increases, then we need to use this X sticks and rotation factor so that it comes in a tilted manner and we are able to accommodate all the bars on the, and we are able to see it also. And even if you make it 90, so it will all become vertical. Okay. So you can see here this changes. I hope this is clear to everyone. The bar chart. Yes. Slanting or horizontal. Yes. Okay. And this here also we can apply the formatting. It is not like that I am able to apply the formatting only to the title. You can apply the formatting in the marks and here subjects, everything you can apply the formatting. Okay. So now let us draw a histogram. Now you can see here, I am not using, I am having the marks secured by all the students. Okay, so here what we'll do, we'll make a class mark and a frequency. It works on the frequency. So here the histogram, we will have the range of values, and in that range how many students have got that belong to that range, and accordingly the graph will be generated. So you can see here the histogram is having range of values. You can see it, the students getting the marks from 10 to 15 or 15 to 20, 20 to 25, like that it is going on. So here frequency is also calculated. I have simply entered the marks of the students, and for drawing this histogram, I have written plt.hist. Here I have written plt.bar. Now plt.bar helped me to create a bar chart, but plt.hist has helped me to create a histogram. And even here also you can change the color by giving a color is equal to, suppose I can write here gold. In gold color also it takes you. Okay, you can change it to sand. The beautiful colors that is already available. So, this in fact, it makes the class also little interesting, because you can ask the students to make a tally marks first of all in the notebook, and then you can ask them to generate a histogram, and you can see that how it is actually comparable, means how you are able to compare the things directly. Okay, so now this was the histogram, and we have another visualization technique that is called the scatter plot. Now scatter plot is like a dots. We are simply placing the dots, but here what is happening, scatter plot is like it gives you the relation between two things. Okay, so scatter plot, and even you can have you can plot, like, see for example, how many the children who are studying for 1 hour, how many children are there, how many children are there who are studying for 2 hours, how many children are there. So that many dots you will be seeing on the graph. So this is something scatter plot actually helps. Whenever you wish to know relation between two things, so you can go for drawing a scatter plot. Okay, for drawing a scatter plot, you need to use the word scatter. I hope this is clear to everyone. Acha, so the coding of the bar chart, surely, see. Coding of the bar chart is this. You can take a screenshot, and I can even share this file with you so that you can refer to it afterwards also. And this is a Colab. I feel it is very easy to handle. It is there available with me throughout any of the platform, any of the computer, and it is portable in nature. I need not always work on one device. I simply need to log in onto my Gmail ID, and I can open my Colab on any of the computer. And even I can share it with my students. This is the best part of using Colab. Okay. So here, this is the histogram. If you wish to write on here, you can write down marks of the students, and automatically the tally marks. Whatever we do manually, it is done. Okay. So here, this is the scatter plot. I was talking that here what happens in scatter plot, we generally give the relation between the different types of values. Okay, so how the number of hours, study hours is related with the marks, that you can see here. Okay, so now the next is the pie chart, the pizza pie. Yes, okay. All of your children, they are too fond of this pie chart. And manually, if you have to draw the pie chart, there are lots of calculations that you need to do. But here it is very easy. So I have not taken too many values. I simply wanted to show you how to create a pie chart with a few features also. I have given formatting techniques also I have given here. So the number of students. Now here I wanted the number of boys and the girls in a class to draw a pie chart for that. Similarly, you can draw a pie chart for all the number of students in each class of your school, or the number of students in each house of your school. So those all things can be done. Okay, so plt.py values comma labels is equal to student. Now you can see here labels are coming here since I was having only two values. So that's why you can see the whole circle is divided into two parts. Okay, So now here you can see I wanted a percentage. Okay, if you are drawing up this pie chart, you need to calculate the percentage, and then only you can draw this pie chart. But this percentage thing is automatically done. So here what I am doing, values comma label students. Now auto PCT means 1.1 F%. Now you can see here the number of boys is 55% and the number of girls is 45%. And the colors also are given here. So beautiful colors also are available here. So you can see it is so easy to draw. And auto PCT you have to use if you want to have these values, the percentage written on each of the slice of the pizza. Okay. Now here I wanted, this is a very beautiful, that formatting thing I wanted to give. So that could also be done. This could be done using hatch. Now 0.0 is for the, this one, these dots. And this dot pi means this one, this formatting. So you can give different types of formatting techniques. Hatch values, you can check online. There are different types of hatch values. And children, they love, by this way, by using these all things, you can make your class very interactive. Okay. So if I am too far, just let me, can we apply different colors for the point? Yes, that could also be done. You can simply, the way I have done in bar, that could be done in here also. Like see, you can create a variable and you can give that many colors. So it could be done. So that is also possible. Okay. So here you can see I have interchanged the boys and the girls and the percentage. So like this. Okay. Label distance, the distance between the label and this. So that's where it is going further. Okay. And now one more thing I have done. In this, you can see this exploding thing I have done. You can see the pizza slices has come out. This is called explode. So what is that? What happens? I have written here explode. Now explode, how I am using it. You can see the place I have written 0.1, that particular part will come out. Okay. I have written with 45, like with cow I have written, the cow part will come out from the explode. If you change it, if you don't wish to explode this one, we can write here, suppose I want to explode this one 0.1. Now so this particular, the second part, the dogs part will come out. You can see here, see the dogs part has come out. This is called exploding the pie. Okay. So if you wish to add legends, now this is called legends. Okay. If you wish to add the legends, what we can do, legends, sorry, 1 minute. Legends can not only be added to pie, it can be added to all the like bar chart, histogram, everywhere we can add the legend thing. So legend, you simply need to write PLT dot legend and title, like title is equal to animals. So it is going to take this animals, it is going to take and it will give you the different colors that it has taken automatically. These colors are taken automatically by the software itself. Okay. And exploding also I have added here. So that's why this cow part is coming out. Okay. And we can add borders. Now you can see I have added a beautiful border to the, and you can see a legend is up. So why legend is up? You can, this position also we can give you. This one is the wedge property. These are called the wedges and the properties what I have given here. So shadow is true means that's why you can see this shadow is coming. Okay. This one too we have already done. I hope I will share this notebook, this Colab with you all in the chat window. So you can refer to this Colab afterwards also. One minute. So I have shared my Colab, and so that you can refer it, I can understand that everyone is not able to do it along with me. So it becomes little difficult. So anyone is having any question, then you can ask me. We are.
I think, ma'am, you're just on time.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, teachers, if you have any queries, you can ask, ma'am.
Can you show us? Yes, how to import a CSV? Yes, 1 minute. I'll show you that part. I wanted to, but time was not too much. No, that's it. I'll show you here
Yes, ma'am. That is an
how
important
to do it. 1 minute.
part. You
Let me
show
share my
that.
screen. Yes, ma'am. Share. Hmm.
So, by then, teachers, you can fill up the feedback
Okay.
from attendance form.
Now you can see here. Suppose this is the file. Okay, so what you need to do in Colab, how to share, suppose you get lots of data set on kaggle.com. Okay, I hope everyone knows it. Kaggle.com, you have data set, and what you can do, suppose we take any of the data set, like suppose if I take rainfall. Rainfall.cs. So let us, I am simply, you can take, we have to do lots of search and then only we are able to find out any data set. But I wanted you to understand that how to upload any data set. Trending. So, let us take this data set. So let us download it. Okay, download as zip. So this has downloaded. So okay. So you can see this is the data set that I have downloaded. Okay. So generally the CSV files can be opened in Notepad, Excel, anything, whatever you wish. Okay, this is the data set. Okay. I hope you are able to see the Excel. Now what I'm going to do, I wanted to upload it in the this one. So I have gone here. You can see here there is this folder button. Okay, this folder symbol is here. Click over there. This up arrow key, upload to session storage. Click over there. Okay, and go to downloads. Suppose this is the file. Let us open it. Okay. So you can write it. Let us rename it. It's very big. Rename is like CO2. Okay. CO2. So import CSV. Now this is df is equal to pd dot read CSV. Okay, now here import under the pd. Okay. CO2. So let us see whether it is able to read that CSV. Read underscore CSV. See. So I was able to read that file here in my Colab. Can you see? I hope this all of you have understood how to store. Just click over here, then click over here and upload the file. Don't go anywhere. If you have, suppose many times what happens, we click here and there and then we are not able to. Then you need to click, search for that file, right click over here, okay, click over here and copy path. And then after copying the path, you paste it over here. That also you can do. Any other question? Now I have uploaded the file here, and now this has become a data frame. Now very easily I can use the columns and create the graph. I hope this is clear. I can now DF country, DF kilotons of these columns I can take, and they will become like a list. If I write DF country, now here if you see, if I write here DF country, so it will display, it is actually a list. Now X is equal to, if I write X is equal to DF country and Y is equal to DF see, I'll get those the country. I need to check what is the name of them. See here what happens. Actually, let's see this one. Leave it. See, this is the whole column it has taken. So this way we can take X and Y, and accordingly after doing lots of analysis. So I hope Rosie ma'am has understood how to import the CSV. Yes, anything else? Any other question if anyone is having?
Yes, I think no more questions. So thank you very much, Annie ma'am, for that wonderful session. I hope teachers have benefited today from your session, and thank you teachers for joining the session. And we'll have our next session on 29th. So do join that session. That would be the end part of this data literacy chapter.
So I would like everyone who had joined, and I hope that everyone has understood something, or the session was a little useful for you, and it would help you in your teaching learning process. And if anyone is having any issues, you can, I think ma'am has given the WhatsApp link,
Yes.
and you can be in the WhatsApp and you can ask the queries. I can very well, if I know, I can solve it. And I would like to thank 1M, 1B and IBM for giving me this opportunity to conduct a session for all of you. So thank you, all of you.
Thank you, ma'am.